asshole. Don't trust China, China is asshole. Don't trust China, China is asshole. Don't trust China, China is asshole. You weep for your dances, your lip sync in fame, but behind every scroll there's a shadowed name. Mao's red book whispers in your ear, your every move tracked, your choice is unclear.
TikTok has brainwashed America's youth. And boy, howdy, do I wish they were kidding. But what we're about to talk about here is pretty intense. Nothing violent, mind you, but that kind of stuff is recommended to kids. But this is a very serious thing. I think I have something selected down here on this one. No, I don't. Okay, cool. So it's a neat little graphic where they replaced the little red book that Chinese citizens were required to carry with them with the TikTok logo, intended to make it look like they were holding their phones with the screen facing outward to show their allegiance to TikTok. And it kind of drives the point home. That's why I wanted to show you the graphic. But over here on another article, this is speaking about the same thing. This actually has quotes from teenagers who were experiencing TikTok and kind of explaining how the situation goes. So there's a focus group conducted between Kenya, the Philippines, and the USA. And this had like an attempt to collect opinions and experiences from the different demographics in those spaces in order to say, like, it's not just the USA that's reacting to it this way. And so what they found is that, like, here's a quote right here. It says, when I watch a sad video that I could relate to, suddenly my whole For You page is sad, and I'm looking at sad talk. And so it's become such a big problem that the kids have actually assigned a name to this phenomenon. And I'll go on. We'll read here again. And says, Lewis, 21-year-old graduate in Manila, who has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, told Amnesty International his experience with TikTok's For You feed. And he says this. He says, it's a rabbit hole because it starts with just one video. And if one video is able to catch your attention, even if you don't like it, it gets bumped to you the next time you open TikTok. And because it seems familiar to you, you watch it again, and then frequency of it over your feed rises exponentially. An 18-year-old, Francis, in the Philippines, also had this to say about his experience. And he says, when I watch a sad video that I could relate to, it affects how I'm feeling. This is sad talk does to it. Another focus group participant explained, the content I see makes me overthink even more, like videos in which someone is sick or self-diagnosing. Remember the phenomenon of WebMD and you've got cancer? WebMD, I've got a paper cut and I don't know what I'm supposed to put. Oh, it's cancer now. You remember that? Everything was cancer on WebMD for a while. It affects my mentality and makes me feel like I have the same symptoms and worsens my anxiety. And I don't even look the videos up. They just appear in my feed. Kind of like how you start talking about Chrysler minivans and all of a sudden Chrysler minivan ads start showing up wherever you go on the internet. Interesting. And Joyce, who's also from the Philippines, had this to say, and she said, I deleted TikTok for a while because I was very addicted to it. I would spend so many hours on TikTok just scrolling through videos because you can't help but wonder what goes up next when you scroll. So what's going to come next? And so these kids were explaining that when you open up TikTok and you start looking at videos you're being recommended, if you watch a video that sort of rewards your feeling of sadness, right? So every now and then people will go and look up a music video that reminds them of a breakup. That happens. You're feeling kind of nostalgic for somebody that you lost, and you just kind of want to remember the moments. You'll look up a video you guys used to watch together, or a song you used to watch together, and reminisce over that. Well, maybe you also are looking for like some advice about how not to feel sad. And so what happens is that TikTok registers that you are looking up sad information and you are spending more than 10 seconds looking at it. All right. Now for them, more than 5 seconds is a pretty long time. but more than 10 seconds means you are engaged in the content. And so it will continue feeding this to you. Now, as an adult, you know that you can go up and say to like the little top corner and say, I don't want to see this anymore. Most kids don't think like that. Again, like unless you tell them, they don't really investigate that kind of stuff. They'll find it on their own. Sometimes certain kids are curious. Certainly not everybody's walled off from it, but most of these kids don't realize that they can shut that stuff off. So they keep getting it over and over and over again. Now, because they open their TikTok up and they engage with it because that video is there from last time, that is then informing the algorithm to continue sending that information to them. All right. Inversely, what happens with like shorts and what happens with reels is, for whatever reason, Mark Zuckerberg and Alphabet Inc. decided that rather than having a constant stream of a certain topic exposed to you, they would feed you 3 videos on that topic and then break it up with something else you had been previously looking at. So, like I said, you're going through your day. Let's say you were watching videos about molten salt reactors, right? You're trying to just wrap your head around nuclear power generation that's not necessarily uranium based. Okay, neat idea. Anyway, back at the ranch, the video you went from that was then into the sad one where you were reminiscing about that breakup. So what happens is on YouTube and on Instagram is that once you've gotten 3 videos on the sad topic, and this isn't on purpose, like sad topics get recommended less, that's not what I'm saying, is that once you get recommended 3 videos on a single topic, the 4th video will be referencing what you were previously looking at. On TikTok, if you get 3 videos in on the same topic, the 4th video will be on that topic. And that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
And that's where it works. Now, again, I don't know if it's a deliberate choice by Google and Zuckerberg to make sure that the content you're fed after those 3 videos is either positive or distracting from the 3 videos you had gotten in a row. I don't know. It's usually, for me, it's 100% different than what I was getting the 3 videos of. The 4th video will be 100% different. TikTok does not function this way. Now, we know why. They were brought into court and a lot of stuff came out that they didn't like. So below, you can see TikTok is aiming to create such a compulsive use, which in turn can lead to problematic use disorders and behavioral addictions, which then compound the harms in the other 4 clusters. Now, these abuse clusters were more about like affecting children's behavior. Here's direct quotes from what was going on in that case. It says, it's better to have young people as an early adopter of TikTok, especially teenagers in the US, because they have a lot of time. All right. Teenagers in the US are a golden audience. If you look at China, the teenage culture doesn't exist. The teens are super busy in school and studying for tests, so they don't have time and luxury to play social media apps. The product in itself has baked into it compulsive use. This is from TikTok with their own stupid mouth. The reason kids watch TikTok is because the algorithm is really good. But I think we need to be cognizant of what it might mean for other opportunities. And when I say other opportunities, I literally mean sleep, eating, and moving around the room and looking at somebody in the eyes. So they are deliberately trying to create content that robs you of your sensical autonomy, meaning you will not want to be a human, meaning you don't exist in your reality. The phone is your only source of existence. You won't move, you won't eat, you won't sleep, you won't interact with someone sitting right next to you. TikTok will be your only reality. So take a look at this. They provided this because they were forced to. Now, what has happened is that they hit a ceiling among young users. For whatever reason, the kids behind the alphas didn't pick up TikTok. Haven't figured that part out yet.
I think they probably didn't they just go to Twitter or Instagram?
I think it might be Instagram, because Instagram's a different beast than it was 2 years ago. It's become an entirely different environment over there now. It's not just wall-to-wall yoga pants and shampoo ads. There's actually content now. So
Yeah, I think that's probably where they went, because I see a lot of people talk about Instagram still. I'm
but
still
what I need
waiting
to
for the graham crackers before I sign up for Instagram, though.
but what I need to say is that 97% of users under the age of 17 have TikTok on their phone. That's what this graph says.
That is sad, and that is kind of scary.
This is a Chinese-owned app that reports data back to data centers in China, not the US. So wherever your kid goes, whoever your kid meets with, whatever they post on there, the language, the location, all of it is fed back to the Chinese Communist Party. 97%. So here's another study that came through. And so this is from the New York Post, so take this however you like. But it says the app has proven to be a dangerous breeding ground for psychological problems, proliferating negative health content, triggering dangerous Tourettes-like tics in some teen girls, not boys. Specifically, young women are developing Tourette's or Tourettes-like symptoms thanks to overexposure to TikTok.
It's probably something like what happened with Cartman in the Tourette's episode of South Park.
Well, and they're seeing right now that even potentially spurring an uptick in an hyperattention deficit disorder. All right. That's what you're looking at now. So that the content itself is training the brain to move slower and react to information slower. Like not in like it's taking information in slower, like you can process it better. It is not registering the information before it's moved on to the next, meaning the brain is waxing over. That's what this is. So beyond these risks is the real possibility the CCP could literally be influencing Americans see on TikTok. The app's personalized growth algorithm and endless scroll function, for instance, means that as soon as kids open the app, they can relinquish control over their screens. The NYU Stern marketing professor, Scott Galloway, thinks that it's inevitable that China is taking advantage of its unfettered access. Quote, if I were a member of the CCP and I saw what we had a vested interest in diminishing America's standing strategically in the world, I would take my thumb and very elegantly and insidiously put it on the scale of content that reflects America in a bad light.
Well, I mean, you've seen what happened on TikTok, that like people were saying Hitler is right because of that, because of some of the stuff that's posted there.
Well,
so
this is the big push. Okay. So the thing about this is getting confused. Do you see the youth are complaining that TikTok is being taken away from them because because TikTok allows them to exist outside of the media's control. All right. This is what they're saying, is that we can post videos of the devastation in Gaza, and then we can't do that on this other place because they'll delete them or shadow ban them. And this is the only place that we can get the truth out about what's happening in climate change and blah, 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 blah.
That's
blah,
how it was. Well, that's what Twitter is. Twitter's always been like that.
Well,
So,
what they're doing is that TikTok promotes this stuff higher than X ever will and Instagram ever will, because, as I just read, it defames the US's strategic standing. If you go around promoting to 97% of 17-year-olds that Gaza is a genocide and a complete erasure of human life, what do you think they're going to think? They're not going to hear any other side, especially not with the videos they're being shown. They're not being shown you and I sitting here having a civil conversation.
They're showing propaganda videos.
Right. And so what's a 17-year-old who's had his driver's license for a single year supposed to make out of that? Exactly. So they come out hating that information. They come out with a very strong opinion of people from Israel. All right. And people who have sympathies toward Israel as well aren't safe from this. Okay. And so again, China's pushing this stuff. How did we end up with this psychopathy around this guy, I Show Speed? Because content where he's going out and doing his thing gets pushed very, very hard. So kids that go and annoy I Show Speed become propelled to very high status on TikTok. So the quest to fuck with iShowSpeed goes through the roof because you can get big attention off of that. The dopamine rush. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what they push. Meanwhile, Douyin, their version of TikTok, same logo, Douyin strictly promotes China's greatness. It is wall-to-wall educational, pro-China, pro-culture, how-to videos, celebrating teachers, celebrating the government, celebrating China's history. None of the, and there's no protest videos, obviously, but there's nobody on there that's like pounding nails into their hands. There's nobody eating Tide Pods, dancing in traffic. None of that. Same app.
I mean, I've seen people heading over to the Chinese version of the app. Now I think they call it It's Red Note. That's the one. They're heading to Red Note.
Well, it wasn't Red Note 2 weeks ago. It was Red Book 2 weeks ago. But the Red Book talks about Chinese Han racial supremacy. So they changed the name pretty quick.
Yeah. So yeah, they're heading to Red Note in record droves. And like people on Twitter, that I follow, or, their followers, they're just like laughing it up because it's like, dude, you want like pro-LGBT content. You want all this other crap. Yeah, China doesn't tolerate that.
Well, and the other thing is that the citizens don't want it either.
Yeah, and that's why they're that's why they're making they're dividing the servers into mainland and foreigner next week.
Well, let me show you what's going on. So what happened is TikTok shutting down on Sunday. It's over with. Tencent's ByteDance has decided that they don't want to sell it. So they're going to
trying to extend it a little bit longer.
We'll see what happens, but Sunday right now officially is when they're done. It may change between now and then, but for now they're done. So the people that don't want to move over to any other social media platform are now jumping to yet another Chinese app called Red Note. Now, Red Note functions similarly to Instagram. It functions less like TikTok, but more like a TikTok Lite. However, the culture of Red Book is not like Douyin.
No.
Douyin is supposed to be a place where you are celebrating the country, you are posting good things and positive things. Red Note is where you go to engage in propaganda, wax the state, be a general, like you're an adult in China and you can't outright say that Chinese politics suck, but it's basically an adult but not sexual space. It's not meant to be for dances. It's not meant to celebrate alternative lifestyles. It's just mostly, to be completely honest with you, it's mostly people that are not in China interacting with people who live in China, meaning people who either left or have family in China. Interacting with them has been the primary use of this app. And so this guy right here, he has a very fun thing to say. He says, just be gay and don't talk about you being gay. And he says, man, the transphobia on here is going to make me delete this app. Poor Nick Osborne, poor guy. And you have, it says, there's only two genders out here, male and female, and that's how they're reacting to this. And Zoe's like, well, I certainly did not expect homophobia. What the fuck?
Like, dude, these mofos do not know shit about China. They obviously don't. They don't know that China is the one that's actively committing genocide and has been for at least almost a decade now, I think. Yes. They actually have concentration camps and all that. They don't know, and they're supporting it, and they're calling the people fascist, and it's like, dude, you're supporting fascism, literal fascism, or I should say, borderline authoritarianism.
Well, Richard says here, we did arrest Chinese secret police. Yep, they're around the country because
they get busted in San Francisco a lot.
They have money, and we have people who think that's more important than life, so they do this. 50-cent army and all that jazz. Yep. Asking Westerners. Yeah. Well, that's going to come to an end pretty quick here. But China does have a lot of popular new halves. Well, I don't know. I don't think that they're allowed anymore. Xi Jinping, I think it was last year or the year before last, banned.
They cracked down on femboys and stuff like
femboys and divergent lifestyles. So you're not allowed to promote LGBT in China. Well, you really weren't before, but it's really, I guess it's more black bag territory than it was before, I guess is the best way to put it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we saw last week they took they raided a doujinshi author, a yaoi doujinshi author. So yeah, they're really cracking up the pressure now.
And so we are laughing at this, that China is going to end up separating their Red Note app so that people in China cannot interact with the Westerners, which again was supposed to be the goal of the great, red firewall, right? The great firewall out there. So this is what happens though, is that people who are either first generation or fresh immigration from China are now cut off from their family members. And so here it is.
Hey guys, I know it's pretty hypocritical of me to make another update so soon after my previous video where I said I wasn't gonna comment on the situation with Red Note anymore. I deleted that video just because it was a lot of negativity. I didn't need that in my life. But Red Note or Xiaohongshu just released an update in the Greater China region with the function to separate out foreign IPs. And there are now talks of moving all foreign IPs to a separate server and having a different IP for those who are in the Greater China area.
All right, so you're seeing her start to kind of have a problem here where she's starting to get emotional. Now, again, the background of this is that she's a person either from China or has close relations there. And this force that's being caused by the wokies jumping on the Red Note is going to prevent her from talking to her family.
I know through VPNs and other ways, people are still able to access the app, but essentially this is going to kill the app for Chinese Americans who actually uses the app to connect with the Chinese content, Chinese language, Chinese culture. It's a way for me to feel, I don't know.
So yeah, she goes on to bellyache about this stuff, and I'm not trying to dismiss it like saying it's a bellyache, but she does just kind of whine about it. She made her point already, but the thing is that this was not really bad in my opinion. This kind of was one of those domino effects of like, yeah, it further shores up China having influence over the U.S. by making sure that Red Note is limited to Chinese users and separate from Western users. Now you don't have this, little line of communication from China right into the US any longer. All right. They have to go through channels we control, which is X, which is Facebook, which is Instagram, these kinds of things, these channels that are banned on their end in most cases. But it'll make it harder. But what it does is that just like TikTok removing this data collection, it removes the ability to coordinate people who want to hurt this country. Because again, people, you want to roll your eyes out there. I get it. People thinking out there, oh man, what an overreaction. You and I are perfectly fine. 100,000 other Chinese might be perfectly fine. 200,000, 1 million other Chinese may be completely fine. But that's a country of several billion people. Okay? And you're going to find that 100,000 of them don't like the U.S. too much. And they want to do some pretty violent things to the Japanese as well. Okay? And so you get 1,000 dudes over here with that mentality connected to 100,000 people back in China. You do the math.
Keep it quiet.
And that's why I have a problem with like people complaining about TikTok being shut out and Red Note getting split up. I understand that people were using it to have their family connect with them and to, maintain a cultural connection to China. But what are you doing here? You made the decision that our ancestors came here, right? I'm not native to the land. My family didn't come from Siberia to become Native Americans to then become Mainers. We came from Europe, very simply. And, they moved here and they assimilated. They learned the language. They embraced the fashion, embraced the culture. When you come here, You have to leave the country you come from behind. And I'm talking to people that want to march down the street on St. Patrick's Day with Irish flags. You heard me. I don't like that shit either. You're not in Ireland. You've never set foot in Ireland. You don't even know what Ireland smells like. Put that flag down.
Well, some of them do. Some of them are like from first generation or whatnot.
Even so, they're here, you know? If you're not an Irish citizen, you know, don't wave that flag. You're an American. Wave the American flag. It's cooler.
But there's something there. But there is something that I should mention to counteract that is like for my example, my people. Like if you ever watch like a pro-Israel rally on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, you see American flags amongst the Israeli flags. And not everyone there is obviously from Israel. They probably have family there, but no, they wave the American flag there. Even Kitty hates talking about China. God damn it, Kitty. You need to just stop. But yeah.
Kitty.
Silly Kitty.
Being chilling.
But I mean, I think it's the same. I could be wrong about the Irish community. They might have I think they might have American flags up too, but I just know it from my experience.
Well, that's just it. Is that like, I just think that if you're an American citizen, we kind of cover everybody. We kind of do, you know? So when you go waving another flag, it's a bit like, I don't know how people would feel about having, you know, an adversarial flag or even an allied flag in another country outside of a sporting event. We've kind of forgotten over the years that we're not all just a homogenous economic zone, that we're not all just like, yeah, we're all human. That's great and dandy, but my culture is vastly different from China's. My culture has some qualities of Japan's, but they're not influenced by each other. It's a coincidence that they share certain qualities, mostly due to the geography that we both sort of inhabit. But my culture is entirely different from California. You know, we barely see eye to eye on most things with Californians that aren't, you know, exemplary like yourself and Spencer and Jacob. Quite a few Californians, coastal anyway, are just people that speak an alien language most of the time. And so this sovereignty that I'm talking about is very important, because when you lose that, people who take advantage of that, like China, can move in and be like, oh, yeah, we're just waving Chinese flags all over the place. We're hanging them up everywhere to show that we are proud of being Chinese.
But that's usually not the case, though, from what I've seen with Chinese, especially like first generation Chinese immigrants. If you look at in Australia, for example, they have anti-CCP rallies every week. And they've been doing that for at least 4 or 5 years now, maybe 6 years. But yeah, they do it because they left China for a reason. The only thing I feel really bad about, though, in terms of this, is that they're not able to talk to their family. It's like saying that WhatsApp was banned, because I know a lot of people that talk to their family in Israel via WhatsApp, the WhatsApp app. So because you could get around like the international cost, because otherwise it costs a shit ton of money to call someone in another country. So that's why people use the WhatsApp app. Like the thing that I don't understand though with this is, why aren't these people going to Snapchat, which is very similar to TikTok? It doesn't make sense to me at all.
It's just one of those things where we've heard TikTokers complain that they don't want to be under the U.S. government's control, but they're perfectly fine being under the CCP's control. It's been one of the more mind-bending things about Marvel Rivals as well. Is you can go check the video, we did it here on the channel. The comments in there are like, why do you have a problem with this? Nobody talks about Tiananmen Square in the game chat. Fantastic. But the fact that China wants to hide a genocide should bother you. Okay, whether it's in Marvel Rivals or in Doom or in any other media place where people are meeting and having conversation. We talk about 9/11. World War II gets brought up in the chat all the time. You know, we got people that want to type N-word towers and things like that. But, you know, that doesn't end up censored in the game chat. But when you can't even type out the numbers 1989 in that order without that being banned from even being posted in the game chat in Marvel Rivals.